I want to talk about Israel just killing Hamas's leader Sinwar, the mastermind behind last October's terror attack on the Jewish state in which 1,200 people were killed and more than 200 taken hostage. Israeli officials say the troops stumbled on Sinwar during a routine patrol. Many are now wondering if this development could open the door to the release of the remaining hostages and bring about the halt in fighting in the Middle East. After his killing, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying his country's war is not yet over. Joining us right now is Dan Senor. He's the former foreign policy advisor to the Bush administration, co-author of The Genius of Israel, and host of the podcast Call Me Back. So how does this change the dynamic, Dan?
Well, good morning. I'd say on a couple fronts. First of all, it's important to take a step back and think about what Yahya Sinwar was responsible for. Slaughter of over 1,200 Israelis on October 7th, the rape, mutilation, beheading of Israelis, and of course, taking hostage of hundreds of Israelis, including Israeli children. He really was the closest Israel has to a bin Laden figure. And so killing him was extremely important. What Israel has said, Israel has repeatedly been asked, where's your day after plan? What's your plan for Gaza after the war? What the Israeli government has been repeatedly saying is we will work on a day after plan. But it's a little hard to imagine the day after in Gaza until the Palestinian people know Hamas is gone. That Hamas is gone, they've been unequivocally defeated. There's no likelihood they will return because keep in mind that Yahya Sinwar, while he has a lot of Israeli blood on his hands, what he was most known for among the within Gaza, he was called the Butcher of Khan Yunis, where he was born. He was most known for slaughtering Palestinians. When he was serving those 4 life sentences in an Israeli prison, it was because of killing Palestinians who were seen to be collaborating with the Israelis. So getting him off the scene, being able to convey to Palestinians that he's never coming back, I think is the first opportunity Israel has now to reach out, and the Arab world, by the way. The Arab world has a role here, too, to reach out to Palestinian civilians and say, Hamas is gone. We've crushed all their battalions. We've crushed their infrastructure, even their leaders, not only Yahya Sinwar, but Mohammed Deif, who was his partner in planning and plotting October 7th. They are gone. They're not coming back. It is safe for you to step forward because unless everyday Palestinians, regular Palestinian civilians, want to take some responsibility for running Gaza, Israel or some third party from the Arab world is going to have to provide the security. So I think this is the first window, the first moment we have, Andrew, where you can imagine people, leaders, whether it's Israelis or Arab leaders from the Arab world, speaking to the Palestinian people in Gaza and saying, now's the chance to step forward and work with us.
And so what does that look like, though?
Well, look, there needs to be some kind of administration within Gaza, local administration. I don't think anyone expects that another party other than Israel, perhaps in cooperation with an Arab country, say the UAE, provides security within and around Gaza. Israel is not going to give up security responsibility at the border between Gaza and Israel, and nor should Israel give up responsibility for security between Gaza and Egypt. Keep in mind the terror tunnels, the terror infrastructure, the terror regime that was built in Gaza over the last decade and a half mostly came from Egypt. So I don't think Israel's going to give up security sovereignty on its borders or over Gazan airspace. But it does mean is that you could begin similar to what you have in the West Bank. In the West Bank, you have local Palestinian administration of civilian affairs. You have some actually administration of security affairs there, too, by Palestinian security forces. But I don't think they're anywhere near ready for that in Gaza. But I think you can begin to envision. It's not going to happen overnight. But look, the Arab world has been reluctant to step in, countries from the Arab world, and help Israel with the day after. I think there's an opportunity for that to change now and start to build some kind of governing body for inside Gaza. There may need to be some kind of buffer between the Gazan border with Israel and deep into a little bit of northern Gaza. But beyond that, there's no reason why there can't be a civilian administration governing things with heavy security by Israel, by the IDF, and perhaps a third-party Arab government.
Layer on where we are, you think, with Iran, and layer on to that, if you could, how you think Bibi Netanyahu is thinking about all of these different items in the context, if it matters at all, the U.S. election and the U.S. supporting whatever he does next?
Well, let me just say one thing. As part of this, the hostages must be returned. So this is an inflection point, because there are Hamas operatives, terrorists, combatants, whatever you want to call them, who are guarding Israeli hostages. And one thing Netanyahu said yesterday was, if you release our hostages, you will not be sent to prison. If you turn yourselves in, provide those hostages back, transfer those hostages back to Israel, you will get some form of clemency. So I think that's extremely important, meaning they don't have to live in fear of Sinwar and Hamas anymore. A, B, or Israel, Iran. Look, as Naftali Bennett, the former prime minister of Israel, has said on my podcast, he keeps saying none of this matters. Hamas is a proxy. Hezbollah is a proxy. The Houthis are a proxy. The militia in Iraq is a proxy. They are the head of the octopus, he says, is Iran. So you can keep fighting all these proxies, and this success against Sinwar was extraordinary, and I don't want to detract from it at all. But unless Israel confronts Iran, this problem is going to keep rebuilding itself. It's going to have many lives. So Israel needs to not just be fighting the proxies, but confronting Tehran. Israel understands that. Israel is going to do that. Obviously, the administration has some apprehension about how Israel does that. They are concerned, as they've said publicly, that the U.S. administration, they do not want Israel to hit oil infrastructure. They don't want Israel to hit nuclear facilities. I know Israel wants to hit oil infrastructure and nuclear facilities in Iran at some point. The flip side is the United States right now is in the process of providing Israel with some very important defense capabilities that Israel needs in this long war that it's in. You've seen the deployment of the THAAD, which is a very important defense capability that's being deployed to Israel, including 100 U.S. military personnel to Israel. So this is the trade-off. Israel's being asked to narrow its targets, and in return, it's getting this equipment. I think Israel's being responsive to the administration. But to your question about the election, I think that is the issue. Basically, the Biden-Harris administration wants quiet, to the extent that you can get quiet in the Middle East. They want quiet for the next some 20 days. They do not want the war to be escalating. Now, to be clear, the war is escalating, but they want, if Israel is going to strike, I think they would prefer Israel to strike after the election, A. B, if Israel is going to strike before the election, they want it to be a limited strike. I think one way or the other, there's going to be a strike. It's going to be before the election. I don't know if it'll be limited or not, and I don't think it precludes Israel continuing to strike after the election.